few items before this body this morning. But you know, I want to ask a question. I'd like to hear, I have a representative here from the commission, one of our commissioners. I'd like to hear from her, and I have Terry Gomes here from the Link. Can I just have them come and give some statements? Can I do that, and then we get into the agenda? Give me guidance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We could go ahead and have that, and then, if you like, we can go ahead and read the items into the record.
That's what we'll do. But before we do that, would you like to go first, Commissioner, or do you want me to have? We've been joined by Ms. Martinez. So we have Mr. O'Farrell and Ms. Martinez here. And I'd like to hear a few words from my dear friend.
I got to hint a few words. I came today, and I'm glad I did come today, because I thought my reconfirmation was going through the committee today, and then I had to come back tomorrow. And I understand now all I have to do is come back tomorrow. But I had a point that I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad that I saw Terry here, because I have a little bit of a concern. We had at the commission agreed to the policy that we really needed to work hard to get exempt positions at the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and we got those positions. To me, the issue of getting the positions was to really help neighborhood councils, was to beef up staff, to help these neighborhood councils do some of the things they needed to do to be more effective. Now I understand that the exempt positions, those salaries, or those positions are going to be used for online voting. And I totally disagree with that. I think that those exempt positions were to be put in place to help neighborhood councils. And I'm really very, very concerned. And I voted for online voting. I really want online voting, but not before our neighborhood councils are put in their proper perspective and are able to function and do some of the things that they need to be done. And actually, I was going to try to find the rule when I go back to commission meeting about rescinding my own vote, because I do not want to see exempt positions go into online voting. I wanted to see it.
Well, we'll be dealing with that issue.
Okay.
And trust me, I heard you.
Okay. It means a lot, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Means a lot to me as well.
I have other issues, but that was the most important.
well, we'll give you one for today, Joy. Okay, Terry, if you could come up. You know, Joy is probably one of the oldest friends I know in politics, that we go so way, and I'm talking decades, guys. Terry, come on, sit down here. Oh. Terry, go right ahead. You may want to introduce yourself to my friends.
Yes. Good morning, council members. My name's Terrence Gomes. I'm the chair of the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council, which represents the 96 neighborhood councils for the city of Los Angeles. Currently, right now, we are at an impasse where we found out yesterday at the Bonk meeting, the general manager for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment had stated that she was not going to be filling the exempt positions currently to bring the staff up, but to actually use and fill the election workers to be able to work with not only the election but the online election. We support online elections, we support elections, but right now the neighborhood councils are in dire straits, because right now the department only has 3 NEAs to actually go out and work with 96 neighborhood councils. And currently right now, Jay Handel, myself, Ivan Spiegel, and Glenn Bailey from the Valley are the 4 that are actually going out almost every night working with neighborhood councils to make sure that they stay afloat. I personally have worked with 6 different neighborhood councils to actually get their funds unfrozen by doing almost a whole year's of the MERs, the monthly expense reports. I put them all together for them so that their board could vote on because of different circumstances that was being created within their board, whether they didn't have a treasurer or they were having conflicts, I went in there and helped them with it, which actually got them to be able to have their funds released so that they could then actually do what they're supposed to do with their funds, outreach, which is an important part of the neighborhood council system. But right now, we are very disappointed that the GM is actually moving forward to fill the position.
Well, see, the money's in the UB, if I understand.
That is correct, though, but they also have the exempt positions that were given, and those are not being filled right now. They're actually being filled as election workers. And you have 3 now. Are we going to lose to where we're going to have 2 for the whole neighborhood council system? And then what happens if one goes out on sick leave or something?
I got you.
Then we have 1.
I got you,
For 96.
Terrence.
Thank you,
Terrence.
Kevin. Yes, thank you,
All
sir.
right, my dear friend. Okay, if we could go through the agenda items.
Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Ms. Joy Atkinson to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2020.
Okay, so let's just take that up. Again, like I said, Joy has been a public servant forever. We kind of grew up in this business together. I highly recommend her. She's knowledgeable and speaks her mind, and these are the types of folk that you want to be volunteering to serve the city of LA. So I would recommend that without objection that we send this to the council with the recommendation, Joy, that you be reconfirmed, reappointed. Is that okay?
No objections.
No, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to also thank you, Ms. Atkinson, for your years of volunteerism on commissions, and I think your example of what you stated with knowledge and passion about the exempt positions illustrates exactly why you're so good on the commission, and your thoughts contribute greatly, and your experience really contributes to moving these issues forward. So thank you for your years of service, and I wholeheartedly support your reappointment. Thank you.
Okay, so let it be written, so let it be done. That is the order. Okay, can you read item 2?
Item number 2 is motion Parks Buscaino relative to the request for all city departments to discontinue the use of the term South Central Los Angeles on all city documents and replace this with the term South Los Angeles and include the acronym SOLA as documents are updated and printed.
Okay, do we have any department people here that worked on this or that I can ask a question or two of? CLA maybe? Paul, can you help on this one? Or Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. Paul Smith, CLA.
Okay, personally, it's not that I personally have a problem with this. I really don't. But I want to understand the process. So, what can you tell me about this? Was the last, well here, no, don't, I won't put you in a position like that. When was the last time, or are you aware of when we had public hearings within the community to seek input where related on this alteration in the name?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of when we may have had those opportunities to hear from the public. I'm not sure. This is the first time this matter has been before the committee. There was a motion presented and introduced by Councilmember Parks. It's on the agenda today. I'm not sure if it's had other public hearings or other opportunities for the public to respond.
And if we were to support this, what actually does this mean? What would happen?
Well, we already have the name change for a previous council action on South Los Angeles. This one, if I read this properly and correctly, is the use of the acronym SOLA, SOLA. I think the motion has indicated that we want to be able to use that acronym in publications, documents as we move forward, as an authorized use of that geographic portion of the city.
So in order to do the first name change, that occurred, what, about 13 years ago?
Yes, sir. I
And
believe
do you
so.
know anything about the process that was used to get to South LA?
I do believe at that time there was a number of outreach efforts to. My memory is correct on this. There was hearings on it. There was a ability for people to speak on it. It was an opportunity to sort of rebrand the geography. Just call it South LA.
Okay, now, but there was no reference to the acronym SOLA? Or?
Not to my understanding. I don't think there was that kind of highlighted acronym being used at that time.
Okay, so I want you to stay there, Paul, but I have a public comment card. Is it Marie Mercado? Well, I'll let you come a little closer, and when you tell me, I promise you I won't forget. Go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Mari Mercado. I've taught in South LA many years and work in South LA. It's imperative that we make change from the inside out and not put a band-aid on an area, a neighborhood that really needs jobs, sustainable, good jobs in our neighborhood, a quality education. South LA is going to be South LA. Whether it's a rose is a rose no matter what you call it, right? I know I didn't quite quote it verbatim, but as a teacher, I like to tell my kids, reinvent quotes, do what you need to do. Reinventing a name is not going to change South LA. What we need to do is change it from the inside out and keep the name, change what's going on. Bring good jobs, bring community, healthy, happy families into our communities, into our neighborhood. My students are already grown, and have their own families. I want them to be able to afford, rent, affordable housing, to be able to go to the park with their kids in a healthy environment. We need change from the inside out. We don't need to put a Band-Aid that spells SOLA.
Well, look, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in and speak before this committee this morning. I thank you very, very much.
Mr. Wesson, will
Yes.
there be more time for, I know there's some folks that are coming up for public comment.
Well, you spoke, I think you represented them well. Let us get back to our questioning.
Okay.
And if we have some more folk that are here,
Okay.
we will take their card.
Thank you.
All right. So, Paul, getting back to you.
I also have a question.
Well, I'll defer now to Ms. Martinez has a question.
And Paul, I have a question. What are the fiscal impacts of the proposed name change? Do we have those numbers?
I'm not aware that anybody has calculated the fiscal or the social impact of that use of that acronym.
Okay. The South Central or South LA is represented by Mr. Buscaino, by Mr. Price, by Mr. Parks, and by myself as well. So I would be very curious to see what the other representatives from South LA think about this, because we were not involved in the conversation about making this adjustment. I do have another general public comment card at this time. General, come on up. General. Or General Jeff, come on up.
Good morning, committee. My name is General Jeff. I'm born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. Graduated from Crenshaw High School, and we have a whole lot of pride in South Central Los Angeles. The name speaks volumes in terms of the passion and the community, the residents that live there. To change the name is to run away from our identity. We identify with South Central Los Angeles. There's an unfortunate incident, the '92 riots, and then there was this groundswell to change the name. You know, just like with Los Angeles Police Department and the Rodney King situation, it was a bad incident for them. They didn't say, well, let's change the name of the LA Police Department. You know, you keep the name, you keep the pride, and you change the conditions. You know, it is unfortunate that there's generations of people who identify with South Central Los Angeles who now, their spirit is now being broken because the city of Los Angeles is pretty much, you know, is going away from the core principles of what that community represents. When you think about Leimert Park, when you think about, you know, the Crenshaw District, when you say South Central Los Angeles, of course you think, you know, a minority community. You know, South LA is now have to redefine itself, and that's not, you know, to omit its long history in that community is just not fair to the people who have already created what is instead the city of Los Angeles should be embracing what the community wants. And as far as we know it, we want South Central Los Angeles. Thank you.
No, thank you. Ms. Mercado, it looks like you found some of your people. So why don't I just ask you guys to come on up? I see that we're getting cards, and I'll let each one of you speak. Paul, just hang around. Come on. Go. I'm going to get you, before you could even sit down, you're just going to start it off. And good morning, and identify yourself.
Good morning, everybody.
My
name is Latrice. I've been living in South LA for a lot of years. And South LA has had its name change over and over again. South Central, these Knox Knolls, and all of that, and now this SOLA. The name keeps changing, but the community keeps staying the same. Nothing has changed with the community. Our social services are terrible. We have bad jobs. We need good jobs. What else? There's a lot. Basically, we keep changing these names, and nothing else is happening to our community. What about the community? Bump the names. You know, we talk about the community now. South LA still needs to be South LA. Not SOLA, not South Central. You know, when people come to visit, they come to visit South LA. The businesses are coming, they're going to come. Whether it's a different name or not, they're still going to come. So vote no.
Thank you. And sorry to put you on the spot before you could even sit down and catch your breath. So who's next? Just come on and identify yourself.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Shantae Harriel, and I'm a South LA resident. And to me, SOLA spells out pushing our families out as well as our jobs, and we already don't even have good jobs in our community. So I just think that it should be no on SOLA. Thank you.
No, thank you. And is this Landry? Landry Thomas? I should have made you go first, let them catch their breath. So anyway, we're going to do it all over again. You start off, then I'm going to go back to them. No. Welcome, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, my name is Landry Thomas, and I've been a resident of South LA for over 30 years. And I think changing the name is just a short-term fix to a long-term problem. We need to come up with long-term solutions for this long-term problems, and that start with us having jobs that pay a living wage and not a minimum wage, and also that starts with us being able to create, you know, like more jobs for our families and stuff and things of that nature. So if everybody just pitched in and did their part to make LA a better place and to help out their community and change the conditions, we wouldn't be here now trying to change the name. So thank you for voting no for keeping the name the same. It needs to say South LA, and instead of changing the name, we need to change the conditions inside of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone? Please. Come on down. Identify yourself.
Oh, hi, good morning. My name is Maria Dubon, and I live in Los Angeles like around 34 years. So since I came here, it was South LA. So we don't need to change name. We need to change our community. There is a poor conditions. There is a lot of homeless on our street. So we have to worry about that, not to change names. So please say no to that. Sola means lonely. In South LA, in Spanish, it's sola means lonely, okay? And we're not lonely. There is a few communities in this country. So thank you for saying no to so have a wonderful day. So that's the thing.
Again, I want to thank all of you for coming down. Okay, let's get back to you. And you may have to help me out, City Attorney. You may have to help me out as well on this. What I would like to do is what are my options where it relates to sending this to the full council? In what fashion I could send it as a recommendation if we all voted on it? Suppose we did not vote for it, could we send it to the floor with no recommendation? Could we send it to the floor with a recommendation to vote no? What options?
Well, you could forward it without recommendation. The council then would just take up the matter directly. You obviously then could make a recommendation on it. You could have further, town halls or community hearings on it if you want to hear more from the community before making a recommendation or forwarding it. So you have a number of approaches that you could implement to kind of get whatever objective you'd like.
Okay, well, thank you. With that said, members, I made a commitment or gave my word that I would bring this to council. But I'd like for it to go without a recommendation from this committee. And at the council, on the council floor, since I do represent part of what is known as South Central, that we create some kind of hearing process so that the community folk would be afforded the opportunity to give input. I believe that in the hearings, meetings that I've had since this has come up, I've had several. And there are people that are not for this, but the majority of people indicate that they were not afforded the opportunity to engage in the process. So I think that we need to give them that opportunity. So I would not be in a position to recommend that we support this, but we will, unless my colleagues think differently, send this to the floor without recommendation. So with that said, I'd like to open it up to Ms. Martinez or Mr. O'Farrell if you wanted to say anything.
Well, I certainly want to respect the community process, and if we didn't have a community process in place, and I would absolutely agree with that option. My only question is, by sending this back to council without a recommendation, what takes place in council, and do we have those hearings before we send it back for a final vote?
Well, I think if we send it today, then the council would take an action to do. What would the council's flexible options be?
You would have a number, Deputy City Attorney Darren Martinez, you would have a number of options at council. It's just basically an item that's, it's like council exercising jurisdiction over one of the issues before its committee. So you could then come up with the process at that time on how you'd like to hear it or have that community input be provided.
So that would be the direction that the council would have to give the department to go back and put together hearings, or would you have the hearings before this item gets to council?
It's up to you what approach you want to take. If you wanted to have hearings before it goes to council, then you want to structure you probably want to arrange to have some type of community meetings or some special meetings of this committee out in the community if you'd like to do it in that way. Otherwise, if you just forward it without recommendation to council, when the item comes up before council, it's going to be considering the issue at one of its meetings, and you'll be taking the input of the members who attend that meeting.
Was scheduled for council today. So it would go to council, and Ms. Martinez would then be, we'll have a conversation and take the temperature of the members, and the recommendation probably would be to send it back. In my conversations with the other members, and I've talked with them that represent parts of South LA, they were not included in this process, and they would want to be included in this process. So that would be my recommendation. But like I said, I gave a commitment that this would go before council. I would like to be able to keep that commitment, and then later in 25, 30 minutes from now, then we will dispense with the item.
Very well.
Does that work?
Certainly.
Okay, so this item, without objection, will go to council today without a recommendation. Correct? Is there any more, Mr. Smith?
And instruct how you further want to take this matter up.
Yes. Now, generally, though, when you do something like this, is there a protocol or procedure that one would go through on a normal basis?
If the matter is coming to council without recommendation, it takes a motion.
No, I'm saying when we're going to change a name, is there not a process?
Well, we do have processes about community name changing, and we have a policy about that.
Well, what about this, since it deals primarily with the writing of documents or what have you?
In the original document change from South Central to South LA, there was a series of instructions about how you treat the geography, and when you are talking about either in a planning sense or a programmatic sense, you want those documents to reflect the true name of it, which would be now South Los Angeles. But as I said previously, there was, in those original instructions, there was nothing straightforward about talking about the acronym, and so...
Okay, that's fine. So what we'll do, again, without recommendation, because I'd like to hear from Mr. Buscaino, like to hear what Mr. Price thinks, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, is there any other business before this committee?
No, sir, that concludes the agenda.
You want to adjourn for me? You feel up to it?
Sure. Richard Williams, City Clerk. This meeting is now adjourned.
Well, you heard Richard. We do what Richard says. Richard, you